If you were forced to marry the person you lost your virginity to, how would your life be going right now? I think it would have been just fine. She was a wonderful woman, but I wouldn't trade the 40 years I had with my late wife, including all the ups and the downs, for anything in the world. And when she left me with 2 wonderful sons and 2 fantastic grandchildren. That was really nice to read. As for my first, I don't think it would have been a happy marriage. Last, I heard she is an alcoholic and hooked on drugs. A year after we split up, I met my wife, 34 years ago, and we're 27 years married. The one thing no one really teaches you is that even the best marriages are one hell of a roller coaster ride. There are great times and horrible ones too. I'm glad we stuck it out. We have 2 beautiful healthy children, and I can't see myself with anyone else. Being a Roman Catholic and growing up in an Italian household also helped. Lol. It was embedded into us at an early age that divorce was a sin, and something you just don't do. You could rob a bank, sell hot stuff that fell off a truck, and commit even worse crimes, but no divorce. I'm really sorry for your loss. It seems that just when you really start to appreciate someone and realize you figured out what marriage is all about, it's too late. I'm gathering from your text that the love and bond between you two is still so strong that your wife still lives on through your heart and through your children too. This is why my parents and all siblings, but one are still married. The one is married, but to a second wife. He refuses to get a second divorce because he can't get divorced twice. Confusing logic, but okay. As for me, I'm not married, almost mid-30s. Last relationship 2.5 years ago, and I've gotten so used to being alone, I don't know that I can get married and not divorced. My generation seems to use dating apps like people catalogs, and it freaks me out. I wouldn't really say we were in love or anything, but she's absolutely a good person. She's a social worker now and married to a guy she met in college. She's not able to have kids, so I still wouldn't have those, which is still the case and the way I want it. That said, I definitely wouldn't be as happy as I am with my current partner, that's for sure, but I could have grown to appreciate it. I like these stories. I'm not a super wonderful catch or anything, but I think I'm doing good. Married for 19 years and 2 kids. Getting by all right. I didn't quite lose my virginity to this girl back in high school, but it was close. It definitely felt intimate. Right up until she ended things the next morning after a date on the previous night. She didn't tell me to stop calling her, but I never did get a decent explanation for it, so I eventually stopped after a few weeks or so. Looking back, I have no idea what happened. We were going to different schools, so I just assumed she wanted to be available for other boys at hers as the summer months were ending. The whole thing felt weird. Her friend that introduced us was just as shocked as I was to find out, and she seemed very affectionate even on that last date. I didn't think girls would be like that towards guys they don't like if she was planning to dump me. Lately, I wonder if her parents had something to do with it, since they picked me up on that day, and she did say they weren't super thrilled to find out about me. But then, I don't understand why she wouldn't tell me if that was the case after breaking things off. I'd be shamed, insulted, bullied, emasculated, and cheated on all the time. Possibly have 2 kids and unable to afford divorce. It started out good, but man oh man did things take a turn. Glad she's an ex. Instead of cheating, he'd probably be molesting our daughter if we had one. Put 2 and 2 together about him and his little sister a few years after we broke up. I'm confident they knew. One of the things I put together later was their weirdly obsessive open door policy within the house, and the panicked way the mom burst in on me and him making out the one time we shut a door. There were some other signs as well. By the time I connected all the dots, the daughter was over 18 as well. So I've never done much with the knowledge except be privately horrified. I don't really want to go through the litany, but it came down to comments he made about his sister, his family's behavior in various ways. The way he reacted to a comment I made about child molestation victims, the kinds of people and things he was into in porn, and the things he was into in bed, which, don't get me wrong, on their own could have been just a kink, but alongside everything else added up to something much darker. My first real relationship as a teen, and I didn't really know how to stand up for myself at the time. He was 20 and a jerk to me a lot. He cheated on me right before he broke up with me, and then bragged about it when he dumped me. He got her knocked up and married her less than a year later. When I heard about the upcoming nuptials, my first thought was, that could have been me, and was so relieved it wasn't. From what I was told, she miscarried, but they still got married. I was told he didn't really want to though. I would have been miserable. Absolutely miserable had I been stuck with him. Funny story though. Well, funny to me. Last time I ever saw the ex was literally on his wedding day, and it was by sheer coincidence. A guy I was dating then, whom I ended up married and divorced, took me to check out the views from this old popular hotel along the mountain. It was a quick stop after hiking up to a popular lookout. My ex and his bride happened to be staying there on their wedding night. We locked eyes for a split second before I rushed past him. I think it was fitting that he would have to see the girl he cheated on with her new guy the day he felt forced to marrying the girl he cheated with. I have not heard a single thing about him since. It's been almost 30 years. With what a dick he was, I'm sure he cheated on her and they were both miserable together. I hope he treated her better, but I doubt it. Mine was a stay-at-home wife that had 5 affairs that I know of in the space of 2 years in the early 80s. She wanted to aggressively argue every day over nothing. Thankfully, she ran off with a loft insulator. If I were still with her, I reckon the affairs tally would be a 100 by now. I'm the type that would never cheat in a marriage, just one of those mugs that have to pay out thousands. She and I dated 4.5 years through college, and after, things started off great, but our sex life nearly completely died after a couple years. She was manipulating and emotionally abusing me the whole time, and I was too naive to see it. I didn't even fully realize it until several months after she broke up with me. It's like that old saying about boiling the frog. You don't throw the frog in boiling water. You put them in nice feeling water, then slowly turn up the heat until that frog is done. It's death by 1,000 cuts, my friend. Same for me. From my past reflection, she wanted to get out of the relationship without having to be the bad guy to break up with me, so instead she tortured me hoping I would leave her. But I never knew what a healthy relationship was, so I took all the toxicity in stride. I don't recommend it. 1 out of 5 stars. By your profile, I'm going to assume you're a woman, so sorry in advance if not the case, but for men, it's way more difficult to get laid than for women. Still relatively easy, but more difficult. I remember once I was going to a depression group therapy, and the most obese and ugly woman I've seen in my entire life got her turn to talk. I don't remember what she said, but I do remember this. She said something along the lines of, we all get laid every now and then just to reduce the stress, right? For men to get laid, they need at the least slightly below average social skills, but for really introverted or socially anxious men this can be very hard. The same, we are married. We are both 35. We've been together since high school. Got married very early in life. Have 2 kiddos. We've had some struggles, but we are a team and work through them. She is an awesome woman. I'm blessed. I won't respond to any DMs asking for pictures of either of us. Me and my wife can fairly say we are each other's first and last. We were each other's first during high school, broke up, got through college and adult life, got back together and got married this time. Our story went full circle. Parted ways with my first love at the end of high school when he joined the Marines and I went to art school. Neither of us got married or had kids. Then we randomly reconnected 20 years later, been back together for 15 years, married for 7 of those, and still completely in love with each other. We're way more compatible and appreciate each other so much more now, with all that independent life experience under our belts. Not good. He was a sweet down-to-earth dude who turned into a massive asshole after he landed an amazing job opportunity and his dad got him a flashy car. It's like he turned into the biggest douche overnight and then dumped me over the phone, probably because he thought he was now out of my league. My heart was broken, but life goes on. I learned many years ago that he lost this high-profile job, and because he got this job through nepotism and not because he actually knew what he was doing. He couldn't find the same type of job, or at least work in the same field. He got recommended by a company to get a degree, which they would sponsor, so he could return to the industry, but he refused because he was under the impression that he knows more than everyone yada yada. He did nothing about the situation and ended up working at a gas station where he still is now, all these years later. I can't imagine how someone with this attitude could be a good partner in life. I would have been miserable. He got a major upgrade for a job that I helped him get. Then he thought who he was. I left him, but last I heard he got married and had a kid. Then his wife ran out on him. He's still legally married to her, and she still has the kid. I don't revel in his misfortune, but he also made his own bed. It might be okay, but not nearly as good as it is now. He's a great person, and I'm still in contact with him. But we weren't meant to be together forever. This is how I feel too. He was a great guy. His family is awesome, and all my family loved him. Sadly, I didn't. I got a lot of flack for breaking his heart. But after me, he met his now wife, and they've got a lovely family. I met my now husband around the same time, and we've got 3 kids. I think we both thought we were happy together, but I'm glad we got a chance to realize we were simply contented. If we were forced to be together, I feel we'd both understand we have to make it work. Make sure our lives aren't miserable. We got on very well early on, and I truly loved him. I'm sure he loved me too once upon a time, and he was very sweet to me. He changed over the years though, and while he was once an attentive, loving boyfriend, he's now a closed-off person who needs ridiculous amounts of alone time. I can tolerate a week or so, but he's the sort of person that needs months off. Towards the end, he refused to call, refused to text, never asked me out, would ask anyone else out though, and has never apologized for it unless I had to ask him. When we slept together, he was lovely. He never hurt me. He asked me if I felt good, and it clearly made him happy to make me feel that way. I was in love with him, and he was in love with me, and we were both happy to lose our virginity to someone we trusted. Now, though he could care less, and I wish it had worked out, but given how he's changed, and that he went to college in another country, it just couldn't last. We broke up a year ago, but kept in contact for a year until he blocked my number, and despite everything I'm still in love with who he was. It sucks to admit that he isn't that attentive, caring person that he was anymore. Probably would have been awesome for a year or two. She was a legit penthouse centerfold girl. Guarantee she would have got bored with me, and moved on pretty quickly. Then I probably would have gravitated back to the path I've been on for the last 40 years, and ended up right where I am. I've thought about this from time to time. She ended up getting engaged a few times, but never married. Ended up getting pregnant from a sperm donor, and has been a single mom by choice for the last decade. Recently, she came out not exactly as transgender, but more like non-binary. Seems to be happy. I honestly have no idea what would have happened if we'd ended up together. I didn't, and still don't want kids, so that may have been a stumbling block. Also, I got severe wanderlust after graduating from university, and ended up on the other side of the country. Not sure if I would have been interested in staying in our hometown, and I'm pretty sure she never had any interest in leaving. So either things would have hit some major roadblocks, and we'd have split up after a few years. Or maybe I'd end up comfortable and lose the desire to move away, and maybe settle down and have kids. Unlikely though. Well, she was a Thai person, so it would be miserable. She wanted me to hit her. I refused. She said her ex was more of a man than I was because he would. She then turned several of my close friends against me. Pretty sure she also cheated on me, but have no proof. Nor did I care after everything else. The guy I lost my virginity to is Turkish, and we broke up partly because his mum hated my guts because he wasn't dating someone of their own religion, and then partly because I discovered he had a thing for girls like Bella Pork and who acted like her. So if I married him, I wouldn't know sanity if it smashed me in the head with a brick rolled in glue, then dipped in a bowl of razor blades and lemon juice. In the best way I can explain, she's mostly well known for her walleyes child-like behavior and acts that she uses on social media. I never really knew her content, thought much about it tbh until I found my ex just scrolling through her stuff, as well as Belle Delphini's, and it was just kind of weird that he loved the whole cutesy thing along with the children audios on TikTok. I hated just knowing him following that discovery. I'd be a pastor at a church in CA, more than likely a staunch conservative Republican, racist, and homophobe. Glad that's not my existence. In reality, an atheist, an anarchist. Panuel. Artner is non-binary indigenous person, and we have 3 kids. 20 years is a hell of a long time. I was bad in love with her. Her later boyfriend who was with her for 4 years claimed she was bat crazy when they were together. Big words coming from him though. Being easily the most noteworthy character I've met in my life. I've often wondered how it could turn out with me and her. I like to think that we'd travel the world as much as we'd be able to until her biological clock says it's baby making time and live happily ever after. But that also sounds way too good to be a reasonable possibility. Probably fairly well. We were high school sweethearts, had at 16, legal where we are, and it was awkward and nervous and pretty bad. But we had been a couple for a while. I broke up with her a little while after, and I'm not sure why. I still had a lot of growing up to do. And I really hurt her when we broke up, which I still regret. We went our separate ways and have great loves and lives with other people. But I'm confident I would have a happy and good life with her if we had stayed together. Might have even got better at the. Eventually, we'd have moved out of her car, probably in with her mother until she got pregnant with this guy Cliff. Then, I would have moved back home since I was still in high school, and I'd probably have continued to make more or less all the same mistakes. But right now would be fine because it's been decades, and I'm off on a new mistake-laden venture, but this time, she has a house. No clue. I was 16, we dated for a few months, and then I ended it because it became just without the relationship. No idea where she is or what she's like now, as she moved away 2 months later, and I'm now 33. If it was the first girl I dated, I'd be in some distant city with someone who uses hard drugs and is always scrounging for money. Oh my God. I mean, my life would be basically the same, since we're both still in college, like we were when we were happily in relationship. But I would be miserable. She wound up being insufferable to be with. So it'd be a marriage we don't interact much at all. We're at different schools. So that'd be easy, and would certainly get divorced, lol. I'd be ashamed most of the time. He was my first love when I was 15, and it happened randomly, but he still acts like a teenager to this day. Sometimes we meet, and TBH it's cringe how he acts to this day. He obviously thinks highly of himself, like he is the best and everybody else is stupid who has a different opinion. He also signed up for the military BC, he wanted to pew the bad guys. Pretty good. She's sleeping on my chest as I write this. We were together for 1.5 years as teenagers. I broke up with her because our relationship dynamic changed when we started at the same high school combined with my declining mental state. We bumped into each other throughout the next 10 years. I realized more and more each time that I made a mistake and that I couldn't get her out of my head. One summer, she calls me at around midnight, asks me to meet her at some nightclub. We spent the night at her place and went on a couple of dates before I had to leave for a vacation. This is where I faffed up. For some reason I was under the impression that I didn't deserve love, so I did not go for the big romantic kiss before leaving. And we both accidentally ghosted each other hoping the other would make contact. 6 months go by and I'm gathering the courage to show up at her workplace and ask her out on a date. Then I read on Facebook that she's in a relationship. This crushes me. Almost 2 years go by before I bump into her again. We have a chat, and out of courtesy I say, "Hit me up if you want some company while going for a dog walk." Thank God I did. She actually takes me up on this. We start going for walks with increasing frequency. At the end of one of these walks we hug goodbye, which turns into a longer hug, which turns into a kiss. We move in together 6 months later. Now, we've been together for almost 3 years, and I'm in the middle of planning how I'm going to pop the question. Well, he passed from an overdose on his first relapse a few years ago, so I'd probably either be a reformed drug addict, a current drug addict, or dead. Really sad. He was not the type of guy I expected to turn to heroin as he grew up. We dated my sophomore, his junior year of high school. He was the funny, popular guy. Truly just the light of a room, could make anyone laugh. We smoked weed together, but he never did anything more that I was aware of. He had a less than ideal home life. Relatively wealthy but uncaring. Cold mother that wanted to force him into military school. In hindsight, maybe Citadel would have been a better path for him. Rip Ryan, I hope you found peace. Note that he broke up with me via accidental text a week before prom. I already had a dress, of course. I went stag with a friend, ended up dancing with his best friend. Well, I did. I've only ever been with my husband. We started dating in 10th grade. Lost our virginity to each other the summer before 11th grade. Got pregnant the summer after we graduated high school, got married that fall, and have now been together for almost 18 years in April. And married for 15 years in September of this year. He's my best friend. I think the longest we've ever been apart is 2 weeks, the 1 year he was at camp for Boy Scouts. Any other time we are apart, it has been like 3-7 days, but it's rare. We have 4 kids, 2 dogs, a house. He's the sole provider income-wise, and through hard work and diligence, he's gotten 2 degrees, and is a pretty valuable employee at his work, and has really gotten to a place financially where we don't really want for anything. He's Superman. I take care of the house, the kids, the budget, and all the menial tasks of running the house. But he doesn't treat me like a 50 seconds housewife, because even though we are traditional on paper with the roles, we are not traditional other than that. We've had a motto since the beginning of our relationship: laugh, or you'll cry. We've had some pretty rough times in the beginning with parenthood and financially, but we talk all the time how it's crazy how far our family has come. Laughter is the most important ingredient to a relationship, we feel, and laughter is never short in this household. I'm proud I somehow found my person right out of the gates. It's rare. I think about the future and I get conflicted. I want to go first because I don't want to ever through the feelings of losing him, but I also don't want him to ever go through the emotions of losing me. Maybe we can get lucky and go at the same time, like skydiving together for our 72nd anniversary, and unanimously go splat at 90/91sts. The shoot isn't working, babe. Well, one last laugh, or you'll cry, my love. Hold our aged and wrinkly hands tightly. One last vigorously wind-blown kiss. One of our dentures gets sucked out from the force of the draft, and the other is laughing uncontrollably at the other's years-worn cheeks, just flapping with no consideration to dignity. Well, I'd been with that person for 8 years, and was supposed to marry them until they left me for someone else last week. So if I went back in time to a week ago, and was told I had to marry him, I would be happy because that was already the plan. If I was told right now I have to marry him, I would dread spending every day with the person who hurt me so badly. Honestly, pretty terrible, I would think. She was immature and selfish when we broke up, and from what I've seen of her since, she's only gotten worse, and with some additional baggage. She's also done things I personally can't forgive or be able to pretend it didn't happen, like sleeping with a bunch of other guys. Plus, she's put on additional weight now, so I don't even find her attractive anymore. There's really no redeeming factors about her as a partner when 1, I can't find it in myself to love her anymore, and 2, I don't even find her attractive enough where I would want her. Wally, she wouldn't satisfy me emotionally or physically. In that case, it would be a lot of fighting, which would lead to divorce. Bad. Very bad. She was into free love, so I doubt she would have remained faithful. She also did a lot of drugs on the stronger end of the scale, coke, mushrooms, etc. She wasn't a bad person, and we had a lot of fun together, but we connected through a college project, and knew it was only going to be a short-lived physical relationship, and not some great love story. So about a month in, we shook hands and parted ways.